Hello, hello, welcome back. We're picking up with another section of Three Little Words, a memoir by Ashley Rhodes Corder. We're in the middle of chapter 10, I believe. Yes. Middle of chapter 10, we're on page 198. There's a page break. So if you're following along in this copy, you can get set with that. And if you're liking this one, give me a thumb, subscribe to check out the rest of the book, and to be here for the rest of my summer reads. I think I'm going to do Sarah's Key next. That is, I think, my pick for our next book here. So yeah, and if you're new here, go back and get caught up with these videos so you don't miss out on what's going on in the story. But without any further ado, let's get going on page 198. Little page break. All right. The next week was Thanksgiving, and my new brothers were coming home for the first time since I had moved in. My room had once been Blake's. Phil set up a folding cot for him in Josh's room. Will he be okay with that? I asked. The boys often shared a room, even when they had their own, Phil said. Besides, he went to prep school at Groton almost 10 years ago and really hasn't lived here since. I hovered in the background as my brothers carried their suitcases down the hall. Josh tossed his stuff in his room on the left. Blake headed for mine on the right, then stopped short. Hey, where am I sleeping? He asked. There's a bed in here for you, Josh called. Blake glanced into his old room and saw my stuffed animals littering the bed. I guess I don't live here anymore. He shuffled into Josh's room and closed the door. A few minutes later, Phil knocked on their door. Hey guys, we have a new mat for the trampoline. Josh came out. Why don't you show Ashley some of your tricks? Soon Josh and I were jumping together, but Blake remained in the house. Ever since the first night I had slept at the quarters, they had expected me to help in the kitchen. I had never had to do dishes at the children's home and resented being treated like a servant. When I did not scrub all the crud off a pot, Gay would say, "Reject," and hand it back. The more I tried to rush, the more rejects I received. If you would do it right the first time, it would be easier. Gay created piles of filthy pots as she cooked the holiday meal. Without anyone asking, Blake or Josh would saunter in, wash a stack, and then go back to playing bluegrass music or working in the shop. I stayed as far from the mess and the revolting food as possible. They used a homemade gadget for scraping corn off the cob and added globs of butter, cream, and salt. Everyone raved about this Pennsylvania Dutch specialty, but I thought it tasted gross. One particularly disgusting conglomeration, oyster dressing, looked like baked barf. For me, Gay put out slices of cheddar cheese and added some Wonder Bread to the bread basket. Blake held up a piece of the bread and asked his mother, "Why are you babying her?" The meal began with everyone saying what we were thankful for, and predictably, everyone said they were thankful that I had joined the family. Then it was my turn. I am grateful for everything everyone else said, I offered grudgingly. I did not want to sound like a perky Annie thanking them for rescuing me from the orphanage. Here's the moistest piece of white meat. Phil slipped it on my plate. It's better with gravy, Cousin Esther insisted. I pulled my plate away before she could douse it, but the ladle dribbled some on the lace tablecloth. Try the wild rice, Josh cajoled. It's nutty. Leave her be, Grampy Wiseman said. She doesn't look like she's starving. Although Gay did not comment, her silence was almost worse than her nagging. As soon as I could, I ducked into my room. Blake knocked on my door. I have one question, Ashley, he remembered. He barked. I opened it slightly. Are you a guest or a family member? Josh came around the corner. Hey, Blake, take it easy. He gave me a crooked grin. Listen, Ash, we want a sister, but it's new for us too. Yeah, sis. Blake snapped me with a dish towel. Do you want to wash or dry? By early December, I was more comfortable with the quarters routine. One afternoon, I rushed into the house, plopped my backpack in the hall, and pitched my sweater in the middle of the living room. Ashley, your backpack and sweater. I rolled my eyes, retrieved my backpack, and then went to my room, closing my door with a purposeful thud. The phone rang, so I had to come out and walk by Gay to get it in the kitchen. When I hung up, Gay pointed to the sweater, which lay between us like a thrown gauntlet. Ashley, she exhaled, what's the deal with the sweater? What'll happen if I leave it there? She wrinkled her brow as she considered the question. I would prefer your cooperation, but I'll pick up your stuff for 50 cents. I'll give you one warning, then if it isn't put away in an hour, I'll deduct the money from your allowance. I calculated quickly. Not worth it, I mumbled, and removed my sweater. The phone rang again. It was my new friend, Brooke. She had just moved to our neighborhood from another city. Her gossip was more amusing than a sweater war with Gay. I took the portable phone into another room and complained about Gay. I have ways of getting back at my mom when she annoys me. How? I asked. Just do something that will piss her off, but that she can't pin on you. She gave me a cunning laugh. I dropped my mom's iron shirts on the floor and make it look like they fell off the hanger. I found a lizard that the cats had partially eaten. I plopped it in the toe of one of Gay's favorite shoes. I never heard what happened when she found it, but she probably thought one of the cats put it there. One of my dumber tricks was to pee in her favorite rose bush, which was planted on a pot on the patio outside my bedroom door. Another time, I slicked the rim of Gay's travel mug with dish soap. I did not hear any complaints and wondered whether she had guessed what I had done. Maybe she was making a misconduct list so she could justify sending me back. I hid out in my room as much as possible, although Gay often tried to get me out, if only to do chores. I was on the portable phone with Tess when Gay knocked on the door. When I did not reply, she cracked it open and said, "Dinner will be in about an hour. Sometime before that, will you please empty the dishwasher and set the table?" I turned my back and thought she had gone. Gay's such a demanding bitch. Gay was still standing in the doorway. She struggled to compose her face. "Do you want broccoli or cauliflower?" "Cauliflower, I guess." She closed the door with a hard clunk. When I came out at the last possible minute, Gay had begun to place the napkins herself. "You know I heard what you said on the phone." I crossed my arms and waited for a lecture. "Ash, I am not the mother who abandoned you." Her voice took on a tone I had never heard before. It was deeper, and it commanded that I listen. "I am not Mrs. Moss. I am not the 10 others who sent you away for one reason or another." I tried to block her voice by humming inside my head, but her words penetrated anyway. "I am the mother who will be here for the rest of my life." Of my life? Maybe it's of your life, but of my life. She started tossing lettuce aggressively. "You can blame me for anything that is my fault, but you can't hate me for what others did to you." Phil came into the room whistling. "What smells so good, girls?" he asked. He saw us scowling at each other. "I can see this is going to be another pleasant family meal," he said facetiously. "What's going on?" "Gay's always on my case," I yelled. Phil backed away from both of us. "I'm going to sit in the car until you work it out." "What about your dinner?" Gay called. "It's already ruined," he said, and left the house. I'm not sure whether I had won or lost. Christmas made me nervous for a lot of reasons. In foster homes, holidays always had a way of making me feel like an outsider, and now the stakes were higher. I wondered if Blake would still be upset I was sleeping in his bed, and if the food would be even weirder than at Thanksgiving. The gifts that had been donated to the children's home were lavish and expensive, and we had been warned not to expect as much after we were adopted. The Quarters hadn't asked me to make a list, and I had no idea what they might give to me, or what I was supposed to give them. They carried on with all their holiday traditions, and I didn't know how to join in. "Come help," Phil coaxed as they decorated the Christmas tree that touched the ceiling in their 2-story living room. I was snuggled under an Afghan on the sofa. I hate decorating trees. "What did you do at the cottage?" Blake asked me. I tucked the Afghan tighter around me. We stood in line, were given one ornament, placed it on a branch, and then had to go back to the end to wait for our next turn. "That doesn't sound like much fun," Blake agreed. "Here, it's a free-for-all." Josh was standing on a ladder, but he could not reach the tip of the tree. "I have an idea." He brought in an extension ladder. "Ash, we need you to place the angel." "But the ladder isn't leaning against anything," Gay warned. "We'll steady her," Josh replied. "Blake, you should have seen her on the climbing wall at Hampshire. She's a natural." I jumped off the sofa, gave Gay a dare me stare, and zipped up to the top without looking down. As I reached for the angel, the 15-foot ladder swayed a bit, but I slipped the decoration into place. "Hang in there," Blake called Josh handed up more ornaments with an extended pincher tool, and I snagged them onto the branches. "Isn't she cool?" Josh said admiringly. I scampered down and took a bow. Gay's family also celebrated Hanukkah. On December 23rd, we lit the first candle and I received my first Harry Potter book. Luke had moved in with the Hudsons by now, and our families got together on Christmas Eve. Every few minutes he would call, "Mom, look at this," or "Dad, watch me." I was relieved he would not have another holiday at the children's home. On Christmas morning, there was a mountain of gifts under the tree. Josh in a Santa hat made piles for each person. "Youngest first," he insisted. I opened a package. It was a nightgown. I tossed it behind me on the floor and opened the next. It contained 2 CDs. I started for the third. "Who's that from?" Gay asked. "I don't know," I replied. Phil retrieved a tag from the trash that had accumulated at my feet. "This card is from Grandma Corder," which was her gift. "Maybe the nightgown?" Gay suggested. "No, wait, Aunt Robin sent her that." Her voice was exasperated. "Let's mark down what you have received so far." "Why do you have to ruin everything?" I screeched. Phil sat on the footrest in front of me. "When you were in foster care, you received presents from donors, so it didn't matter who they were from. But now, someone who cares about you selected each one of these gifts. All we want to know is which present came from which person so they can be acknowledged." His voice was warm yet firm. "That's how we do it in this family." "My turn," Josh said to get me off the hook. The big family gift was a hot tub. "Let's have a girls-only hot tub," Gay suggested when the boys were out with their friends. We each found comfortable positions. Gay leaned back and closed her eyes. "You will always love Josh and Blake more than me, won't you?" I blurted. It was too dark to see the expression on Gay's face. "Yes," she said in a throaty voice, "if its length of time equals amount of love. On that basis, I have been with Phil the longest, so I love him the most. Even though I have only known you a few months, I know love is growing in my heart because..." She waited a long beat. "Well, I almost had a heart attack when you were on that ladder." She turned off the hot tub jets to make certain I was hearing her. "You are our chosen child, our only daughter. We missed so much of your life, and we cannot erase some of the tragedies." Gay started to climb out of the hot tub. She turned and smiled. "All we can do is help you be the person you want to be from now on." I'd never been able to stay up until midnight, but the quarters allowed me to ring in the new year. Phil poured champagne for the adults while my friends and I drank fizzy grape juice. At 1 o'clock, Gay turned to my friends and me. "Girls, time for bed." Blake's and Josh's friends were going to continue their party on the patio. A few hours later, voices in the living room awakened Gay. She peered over the balcony and saw Tess and me sitting in the living room with my brothers and their friends. Later that day, I overheard Gay scolding her sons. "It was inappropriate for those 6th grade girls to be prancing around in their nighties with your friends." Josh tried to calm her down. "The girls just wanted to hang out." "Did I get you in trouble?" I asked him when Gay went to stew in her study. "Let's go for a walk," Josh suggested. It was windy out and I hadn't taken a sweater. Blake joined us. When he saw me shivering, he laughed. "Florida girl." Halfway down the street, Blake said, "Even though we're a lot older than you, we're not your parents." Josh added, "But we do want to be your brothers." "In other words, we are always going to support you, not the rents," Blake continued. "If Mom hadn't seen you last night, we never would have said anything," Josh added. "But now she knows," I said. I was trembling from the cold as well as from anxiety. Josh put his arm around me. "Oh, don't mind her. She's like a match. If she rubs up against something, she flares up for a second, but then she fizzles out very quickly." "And Phil?" "He's harder to pin down. He'll let something eat away at him without mentioning it. But if you really disappoint him..." Josh let the words linger. "The point is, they are the best parents ever," Blake said. "They have always been there for us, and they will always be there for you. And so will we." That's the end of chapter 10. All right, here's chapter 11 on page 208. What do I have to do? In the back of my mind, I kept wondering what I would have to do wrong for the Quarters to send me back. Refusing to eat something or having a messy room was not going to annoy them enough. I had found all sorts of ways to incite a quarrel between Phil and Gay, which gave me a perverse satisfaction, until Phil lost his usual cool and stormed out to his workshop. I had never wanted to hurt his feelings, but I did love to see Gay crumble. Want to go to the ball? Gay asked on a Saturday morning. Not particularly. I was painting my stubby nails. Are you sure? There are some great clothing sales. After lunch, Phil wondered if I wanted to go to the mall with him. Sure, I said. Gay blew up. I was going to buy her clothes. Phil put his hands up in surrender. I'm just getting a battery at Sears. Gay fumed for a while, but the next morning she was cheerful. Every day is a new day, she said. Then her voice darkened. But Phil is different. He's very slow to anger, and it takes him a long time to forgive and forget. He'll go the extra 10 miles, but if you break faith with him... Her words trailed off ominously. Over at the Hudsons, Luke was testing limits more and more. I overheard Gay trying to calm down Georgia over the phone. They love to wave the red flag in the bull ring, but you don't have to react. Gay nodded sympathetically. I know, I lose it too. After Luke was cruel to their dog, the Hudsons admitted that he may not have been ready to live with them, and he returned to the children's home. I was furious, not at the Hudsons, who had been so patient and loving, but at Luke, who had blown his big chance. He was not the only reject. Daphne's sister was sent back for intensive therapy. Will bounced into and out of a family, and Sabrina's adoption disrupted. We were the boomerang kids. No matter how far we were thrown, we ended up back at our place of origin. I was determined to enjoy my freedom while it lasted. The Quarters traveled for their film business and usually took me along, pulling me out of school for a few days. In January of my 6th grade year, Josh joined us as a second cameraman at a judges' conference in Santa Barbara, California. After a long day of shooting, Phil and Gay went to a meeting while Josh and I rented recumbent bikes on the beach. Alone with Josh, I felt a genuine acceptance that I had not yet sensed with his parents. With the wind in my hair and the surf pounding in my ears, I thought, this is about as far away from foster care as I can get. But I still warned myself not to let my guard down. A few weeks later, we were off to film again in Washington, D.C. I tagged along while Phil and Gay interviewed some members of Congress. A group of staffers invited me to explain the problems faced by foster children. They were shocked by how often I had changed schools. When we had a break, Phil asked what I would like to do. How about going to the White House to meet the president? He grinned. Okay, we'll arrange for that next time. I decided on the Holocaust Memorial Museum. Oh, that's a good one. At the entrance, I picked up a card with a young woman's picture and followed her story. Her life became worse and worse, and I wondered if she had learned to turn off her feelings the way I had. She was separated from all her family members too. At the end of the tour, I learned that she had perished at Auschwitz. Afterward, I wandered around the lobby in a daze. Where were you? Phil asked in annoyance when they finally found me. We're going to have to hustle for our next appointment, Gay said. As we hurried toward the metro, I lagged behind. Phil paid our fares just as the train was coming into the station. The Quarters leaped on the train. Since I had never seen a subway before this trip, I feared that the doors were going to squash me. Feeling overwhelmed for a moment, the doors closed while I was still standing on the platform. Phil yelled, "Take the next train to Union Station!" His eyes were wide, and Gay looked frantic. I took the next train and was relieved to get to Union Station. I climbed the stairs and went directly to the officer at the information booth and said I was looking for my parents. He called the other station and said my parents were at the other end of the platform. Phil and Gay came panting toward me. Where were you? I asked. Where the hell were you? Phil bellowed. I was here the whole time. We were covering both ends of the platform. How did you slip away from us? He shouted, as if I had done it to defy him. I pushed through the turnstile to get away from them. Phil was right behind me and grabbed the collar of my jacket. Don't you ever pull a stunt like that again. His face was mottled with red patches. We thought we had lost you. Gay was shaking. Why didn't you get on the train with us? The door closed. I shrugged Phil's arm off. You're hurting me. "You hurt me, Ashley," he growled. "Anything could have happened to you." We trudged up Capitol Hill in silence. We were staying with some business associates of the quarters, so they could not continue to berate me. After dinner, I hurried to get ready for bed and turned out the light, hoping I could fall asleep and wake up with one of Gay's fresh starts. I heard creaking on the stairs in the old house and feared someone was coming to have a little talk with me. I heard my door's handle turning slowly. I rolled over to face the wall, which was illuminated with a plank of light from the hallway. Gay sat on the end of the bed. "This hasn't been the best day, but it's something we went through together. Now it's woven into the fabric of our family story." "Threads break," I mumbled. "Not if you use tough fibers. If you were not made of resilient material, you would not have come this far. Just remember, you aren't alone anymore. We are here to back you up." She started to close the door behind her. The latch clicked closed, but I did not hear her footsteps moving away. The door snapped open again. "Ashley," Gay whispered through the gap. "I love you, sweetie. Night-night." I pretended I had not heard her. Even if Gay really thought she loved me, I felt nothing. The Hudsons had said they loved Luke, but that didn't stop them from sending him back. My mother swore that she loved me, and she abandoned me in the end. Adele, Aunt Leanne, even some of my foster moms had used the L word, then disappeared. I liked the quarters, large house, my school, and my friends. I just had to figure out how not to blow it. In April, we went to Colorado to film foster children who were placed for adoption with military families and remained a few extra days so I could try skiing. Driving up the mountain, it began to snow. "Please stop," I called out. Phil parked at an overlook. I jumped from the car and thrust out my tongue. Finally, after more than 7 years, I tasted the icy tang of snow again. As it tickled my upturned face, I remembered what Adele had said about taking me to Colorado. Now I was there, but with another family. A few years earlier, I might have felt guilty that I was having the experience without Luke or any of my other relatives, but I was beginning to accept that I was meant to go on with my life, even a good life, without them. Still, I wondered whether Adele or my mother ever thought about me. Our next trip was a cruise in the Caribbean. I remembered Miss Chavez telling me about her mother moving from one island to another and how she had later come to the United States. I started to count all the places I had lived over the past 9 years and ran out of fingers. For the first time, I sensed this might be my last move. On one island, we hiked up a steep hill after swimming under a waterfall. Gay panted. I think I can. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "It's what the little engine that could said. Didn't anyone ever read that to you?" I shook my head. "Did you ever hear any bedtime stories?" "Not that I remember." After we returned home, Gay started reading me children's books like Pat the Bunny, Goodnight Moon, and Where the Wild Things Are at bedtime. I liked being babied more than I dared to admit. One evening, I started babbling in baby talk. Gay played along. "Baby want her baba?" She handed me an invisible bottle. "I've always wanted a bottle," I announced in a regular voice. My mother took mine away too soon. The next day, she actually bought me a bottle. I filled it with juice, relaxed on the couch, and drank it. "This is great!" I tossed it in the air, and it doesn't spill. After Gay read Horton Hatches the Egg, we both were quiet as we contemplated how the mother bird left the elephant to sit on her egg. "Do you still wish your mother would come back for you?" Gay asked. I said, "No," although I was not certain I meant it. "If you want, you can still see her," Gay said as she switched off my table lamp. I turned my cheek for the usual kiss. Gay said, "Someday, maybe you'll kiss me back." I sat up and stared just past her. "I told you I would never kiss you." She looked as startled as if I had slapped her. I gazed at my ceiling that twinkled with glow-in-the-dark stars. Somewhere my mother was still out there. I would keep my promise to her even if she had not kept any of hers to me, and I would never love anyone else. A few days later, the official adoption papers arrived. We had been expecting them for several months, but my caseworkers had changed so many times, creating further delays. "Doesn't matter to us," Phil had reassured me. "We're not letting anyone take you away from us." Because I was 12, I had to sign consent to the adoption and select my name. "I have been Rhodes all my life," I told the Quarters, "and I don't want to lose that." "We'd like everyone to know you are our daughter," Phil said, "but we won't force it." He left the paper in my room. "We'll never change our minds about adopting you, but you can change yours. Let us know when you have made your decisions." For the most part, we were getting along better and better. Phil was easy, but Gay was always on my case when it came to food. Usually I was starving by 4 o'clock, so on the way home from school, I would beg Gay to stop for a burger. She relented when she was cooking something like curry or a casserole because she knew I would not even taste foods when she combined them in some disgusting way. I would eat vegetables only if they were canned, and I hated the bright green, crunchy ones she steamed and claimed were healthier. At least Gay did not spice my portions and stopped wincing when I dumped steak sauce over every meat. I knew she was trying, and yet, for some reason, that irked me too. "I'm preparing all your favorite recipes," Gay called as I headed for the portable phone. "Roasted chicken, cauliflower with cheese sauce, pickled cucumbers, and freshly baked blueberry muffins." I did not respond. "Want to lick the bowl?" she asked after she poured the batter into the muffin tin. "I'm on the phone," I said, even though I had not yet dialed. I dragged out the call and came to the table reluctantly. The food smelled delicious, yet I did not want to give Gay the satisfaction of winning, although I did not know why I felt that way. I sat down as though I suspected there was a tack on my chair. Phil lifted a slice of white meat. "Hand me your plate," he said to me. "I'm not hungry." I stared Gay down. A little thrill went through me as I saw her twitch. I knew she was thinking about how to respond to my rejection of her menu. Gay's jaw tightened. "No alternate dinners," Gay said to me, then turned toward Phil. "She likes everything that's being served." "Fine," I retorted in relief. "May I please be excused?" I went to my room and did not emerge for the rest of the night, even though my stomach rumbled and my mind churned, trying to understand why I would rather annoy Gay than eat her food. The next day, Gay picked me up from school. "Want to stop at Wendy's?" "Are you going out or something?" I asked. "Nope, you won't like what I'm cooking tonight." "What is it?" "Sweetbreads." "That doesn't sound so bad." "It's a cow's pancreas gland." I figured she was grossing me out as revenge for not eating her chicken dinner. While we were ordering at the drive-thru, Gay said, "I called Beth Reese today." "About the adoption?" "Nope." Her cheerfulness was troubling. If she was sending me back, she would have spoken to Beth Reese. "Ashley, I've been bending over backward trying to cook for you, but from now on, I'm serving the sorts of meals that Phil and I prefer. I will try to make a plain version for you, but I won't care if you eat it. You may have all the alternate dinners you want." Once we were home, I unpacked my sandwich while Gay started her preparations. She peeled carrots as if she was enjoying skinning their flesh. "Are you mad at me?" I asked. "No." "What did you talk to Miss Beth about?" "Why you didn't eat any of your favorite foods last night." Gay put down the peeler. "I love feeding my family, yet you resist my nurturing because all the other mothers, especially your birth mother, failed to care for you. I cannot force you to accept my love through food, kisses, or any of the ways I know." She melted butter in a sauté pan, then tossed in pieces of the gnarly meat. "So I won't frustrate myself trying." I reached for my burger. It was cold. I ate it anyway and tried to decide once again whether I had won or lost. Did I really want to stay with the Quarters? Some days I felt as if I had been born into their family. Other times I felt like a guest who had stayed too long. Yet I was more afraid of an unknown place. This could be the best deal anyone would ever offer me. Finally, I decided on a name. Ashley Marie Rhodes Quarter. Gay's cousin Neil Spector was going to be our attorney for the finalization. We went to Tampa to sign the consent forms at his office. "Will Neil also be my attorney after the adoption?" I asked. Phil raised his eyebrows. "Why? Are you planning to sue us?" "No, but I want to sue the Mosses for what they did to me and Luke." "It will be their word against yours," Phil said. "They should pay for what they did to us," I seethed. "Cutie pie, let it go," he added. Gay whispered, "Why don't you talk about that with your therapist?" Neil ushered us into a conference area to review the paperwork with us. He glanced from the quarters to me and was probably wondering why we did not seem happier about the occasion. We're on page 218. There's page break. Okay. Gay told me she was going to Tampa to review my whole file. I want to fill in the blanks of your life before they store your files. We've got the kid, what else matters? Phil asked. Ashley's had so many questions about her past. Maybe I'll find some answers in those boxes. That evening, she came home waving a thick manila envelope. Your new worker dragged out 3 file storage boxes. I found all sorts of information on your birth family, foster homes, schools. She grinned mischievously. When I lifted out the last section of files in one case, I noticed this. She handed me the envelope. I gasped when I opened it and found my hospital newborn photo, family snapshots, and even professional baby portraits. I didn't know that I had any baby pictures. I'd recognize those dimples anywhere, Phil said like a proud papa. He made copies, and soon my framed baby pictures sprouted up next to those of Blake and Josh. Before going to school one morning, I came in to ask Gay something while she was sipping tea in bed. She pointed to the photo of me as a bald baby in a sky blue dress. Sometimes I pretend you were my baby, she said. I looked at the picture, then at Gay. Gotta run. I started out the door, turned around, bent over, gave Gay a peck on the cheek, and rushed from the room. Aww. The quarters bustled about with legal preparations and plans for 3 adoption parties. To honor the people who had helped make my adoption possible, they were hosting a luncheon near the courthouse. Mary Miller and the Guardian ad Litem program staff headed the guest list, which also included Martha Cook, who had been my pro bono attorney ad litem. Next, we were going to the children's home for a smaller dessert party, which only served to remind me that I could get sent back there any time. The quarters also planned a gathering in their home for friends and family over the weekend. When Gay asked what sort of cake I wanted, I said, I don't care, and I really did not. I did not want to make a big deal because I expected that all celebrations would just add to future bad memories. From now on, you'll have 2 birthdays, your adoption day and your regular one, Gay announced. Then she said, what would you like for your adoption day gift? I want to have my ear cartilage pierced like Miss Sandness. I'm not mutilating you the minute I get you, she snapped. Tess's mother let her have her belly button pierced. Lucky Tess, she said in a snide voice. The closer the fateful day came, the grumpier I felt. That morning I did not dress until the last possible minute. Gay was annoyed that everyone, including my godparents Adam and Leslie Weiner and their 3 young daughters, was waiting on me. Josh carried the professional video camera to capture every precious moment. At the luncheon, I could barely swallow more than a soda. Gay had told me to write a poem to thank everyone. She had my poem printed and waiting on every place setting. Phil stood up and welcomed the guests, and then Gay made a few remarks. She concluded, thanks everyone for giving us our daughter. Now, here's Ashley. I stayed in my seat. Gay flapped her copy of my poem in my face. You're supposed to read it, she hissed. I looked out and saw the expectant faces of the Merritts and Miss Sandness, Mary Miller and Martha Cook, the children's home staff, the Weiners, and other quarter friends and family. I was more furious at Gay's prompting than nervous. Snatching the paper, I spoke in a monotone. You have helped me so much over these past few years. I just can't thank you enough, you wonderful dears. You came through for me even when I was blue. You even found me a great family. Who knew? You've gone to great lengths to please this little old me. You really cared, and that I now see. Words cannot express my deep gratitude. You've made me one happy little dude. What I say is true, I hope you don't mind, but you guys are definitely one of a kind. I was trembling as I spit out the last forced sentence. Thinking I was overwhelmed with emotion, Phil stood and put his arm around me protectively. We'd better not keep the judge waiting. I squirmed away and went to the restroom to avoid saying goodbye to those who were not coming to the adoption proceedings. Gay followed me into the bathroom. Ashley, are you all right? I flushed and came out. Yeah, sure. I'm nervous too, Gay said. I pushed in front of her without responding. The car was hotter than a sauna, and it didn't have time to cool off before we found a parking lot near the courthouse. The downtown buildings radiated heat like giant toasters in the midday July sun, making my dress stick to my legs. At first, the frigid courthouse felt as refreshing as an icy bath, but by the time we took the escalator upstairs, I could not stop shaking. Soon we were called into Judge Florence Foster's chambers. I could not wait for it to be over, but there was a delay. Clayton Hooper, the same caseworker I'd had at the Hagens and now my most recent adoption worker, was late. I stared into the distance while everyone chatted, as if this were a cocktail party. I sucked in my cheek and chewed on the inside of my lip. "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late," called Mr. Hooper as he breezed in without explaining where he had been. He reached over and patted my head. "Where's that sunshiny smile of yours, Ashley Marie? This is the happiest day of your life." "The judge is waiting," a bailiff said, and opened the door for us all to enter. I expected that we would go into a TV-style courtroom, but we went from a public hallway to a private one, then into a corporate-style conference room with a polished table in the middle. Judge Foster sat at one end, Neil Spector was in charge of the seating plan, and I was told to take a chair between my almost parents. I stared across at Mary Miller, Mary Fernandez, and Beth Lord. I wanted to crawl under the table and sit on the other side because I felt that is where I really belonged. They had known me longer than the Quarters, so in my mind, they were more like family. I glanced at Phil and Gay, who were listening to the legal gibberish. Mary Miller was smiling, and so were Beth Lord and Mary Fernandez. They wanted me to move on to another life, but I was ready to call the whole thing off. Gay's father, he liked it when I called him Grampy, coughed. He was signaling Josh to get a shot of one of the Weiner's daughters, who was making a monkey face, but Josh remained focused on the judge as she turned to speak directly to me. "Nothing in life comes easy," Judge Foster began. "If it does, you should be suspicious." Now I realized that the judge was trying to connect with me by understanding that I had overcome many hardships, but at that moment I believed she sensed that my new family was too good to be true. Gay could morph into a Mrs. Moss as soon as nobody was checking on us, and I had glimpsed how furious Phil could become during the episode in the Washington subway. What would he do if he got angry with me again? It was only a matter of time before this happy family farce would be over. I looked anywhere but at the judge, hoping there was some way to leave the room without causing a scene. I turned back in as the judge was complimenting the Quarters on their willingness to take me. Then the judge asked me, "Do you want me to sign the papers and make it official, Ashley?" Because of my age, I had to consent to the adoption. There was a long silence. I could hear Gay's short little breaths. Grampy coughed again. I muttered, "I guess so." 3 little words, and it was done. Gay blotted her eyes, reached over, and tried to kiss my cheek. I arched away and rubbed my grazed cheek as though it were tainted. I headed to the door, but Phil nudged me toward the judge. We took a few stilted photos with the judge. Mary Miller presented me with a bouquet, which required more photos, and then it was back out into the pounding sunlight. I wished I could melt into the pavement rather than have to get into the Quarters van and pretend that this was a happily ever after occasion. We stopped at the children's home for the dessert celebration. I had been to these productions for other kids who were sent back, so what was the point? My old friends stood around awkwardly and left the room as soon as they had finished their cake. Luke, who was normally a total terror, sat docilely and sipped a soda. For the last time, Mary Fernandez asked me how I felt. I said, "This is horrible for Luke." "This is your day, Ashley," she said, but my feeling of doom did not recede. Not long after the adoption, the strangest thing happened. I started tasting new foods. While we were in Tampa shopping, the Quarters decided to have sushi. "Do you want to have a burger before or after?" Phil asked. "I'm not hungry yet," I said, sulking. At the sushi bar, the young, handsome chef automatically served me a piece of yellowtail. Wanting to impress him with my sophistication, I popped it in my mouth. It tasted both sweet and tangy, and the texture was silky. "It's really good." I saw Gay and Phil exchange a shocked glance. I dared myself to try a piece of tuna roll from Phil's plate, "May I taste your soup?" I asked. He pushed it in front of me, and I ate it, seaweed and all. "Still want a burger?" Phil asked when we were in the car. "Nope." A few miles down the road, I blurted, "I can't believe I ate raw fish." As the adoption made me feel more secure, the tautness in my stomach relaxed, and I found that I was interested in new foods. I realized that I could find something I liked at almost any restaurant, whereas before I had often left hungry. School started again in a few weeks, which was a relief because my quarrels with Gay had intensified. She hassled me about everything, and sometimes I enjoyed provoking her. On the Halloween just before my 13th birthday, Tess came over. We fashioned low-cut, tight costumes and elaborately made up our faces. "What are you going as?" Gay asked. I strutted on high heels and placed my hand on my hip in a provocative pose. "A hooker!" "You can't go out like that!" Gay shrieked. "What about Tess?" I felt humiliated in front of my friend. "I'll take her home and see what her mother thinks of her choice, but if you don't modify that outfit, the only trick you are getting is to stay here." I gave her the silent treatment. "Those blank stares may work on other people, but I've lived with you long enough to know what you're up to," she said. "You're an unreasonable..." My voice became shrill, but I censored myself. I had never cussed at Gay to her face and did not know what would happen if I did. "And you're acting like your mother." Wait. Let's see. Oh, I think Gay said that. "And you're acting like your mother." I recoiled, as if I'd been punched, and gasped for breath. Gay looked like she wished she could suck the words back in. As soon as I caught my breath, I found beads and scarves to make the outfits more discreet, and we went out as gypsies. Oh. I guess she said that in anger, but it kind of hits. It kind of hurts. All right, we're on the bottom of page 225. There's a page right there. I did not know then that the Quarters had withheld something that Gay had found along with my pictures in the files. Letters from my mother, Aunt Leanne, and Dusty. Gay waited until after the adoption to contact Leanne. My aunt was thrilled to hear about me and told Gay how she and Lorraine had tried to parent me when I was a baby. Leanne was married with 2 sons. My Uncle Sammy was also married and had been eager to find Luke and me. Gay asked her whether she should contact my mother. Aunt Leanne explained that my mother had a steady job and a new boyfriend. She would love to hear how Ashley's doing. "I'll write her," Gay replied. "Well, you be careful," Leanne warned. "My sister can't always be trusted." Mary Fernandez and Mary Miller also urged caution. Therapist told Gay that it was important for me to have integrated more of the Quarters family values before I identified with my mother again, and my guardian, who had dealt with my mother for several years, distrusted her. Phil was also negative and insisted she use our attorney's return address. Gay kept the correspondence secret from me for quite some time. Every time I visited Luke at the children's home, I was haunted by the thought of where I would be without my new family. I used to think of the campus as a haven, but now I saw it as a holding pen where my brother would stay until he turned 18 or could find another family. But still, I couldn't get along with Gay. My friend Brooke agreed that Gay had no sense of what girls our age were wearing and had terrible taste in clothes. She never got manicures and did not own a single pair of heels or jeans. Then Tabitha pointed out that her family's rules were far stricter than mine were. Sure, I had to set the table, but her mother used dainty china every night, and she had to hand-dry the plates. She reminded me to be grateful, and reluctantly, I sometimes agreed with her. Gay's father, Grampy Wiseman, lived only a few miles away. I loved driving up to his house because his front door was guarded by gigantic lion sculptures, exactly like the ones I had fantasized would protect me. Grampy sometimes noticed how cranky I was with Gay. At first, I thought he would take his daughter's side. "You come to me if she's too tough on you," he said. "I'll calm her down." His lips crinkled into a smile. "Now, where is your latest report card?" He gave it the once-over. "Okay, Ash, here's the cash." He handed me $100 for being on the honor roll. "There's an honor roll breakfast, and Gay and Phil can't make it. Would you like to come with me?" Grampy beamed. In January, Gay picked me up at school. We're going to have to go to Washington again. She sighed as though it was going to be a drag. What are you filming? Actually, the invitation is for you. She handed me a fax from the director of the Dave Thomas Foundation who had arranged for me to attend a White House event. Will I meet President Clinton? I'm not sure, but the First Lady will be there. Gay and I flew to Washington together. She seemed to know everyone in the line that snaked through the security checkpoints. Once inside, we stopped at the women's restroom in the East Wing. A sitting area featured portraits of previous First Ladies. Gay snapped photos of me in front of many of them. Even the paper towels were imprinted with the White House logo, and I took a few for my friends. As I walked up a marble stairway, a trio of musicians was playing classical music. Are you okay? Gay asked, noticing my face blushing from excitement. Just hot, I said to avoid having to explain that it was as if my childish fantasies about accidentally being lost in foster care while I was really meant for another grander life had come true. The occasion was an announcement of a program for children who were aging out of foster care. One girl described how she slept on gurneys in hospital emergency rooms at night while attending college during the day. I wondered if Luke would end up that way. On the way out, Gay introduced me to Michael Pirano, the CEO of the National Court-appointed Special Advocates Association. Guardian ad litem volunteers like Mary Miller are often called CASAs for short in many parts of the country. I see you representing the Dave Thomas Foundation here, he said. Awesome. That's my kiddo, Gay bragged. What did you think of Mrs. Clinton's announcement? Mr. Pirano asked me. I probably should have given him a polite reply, but I was thinking about Luke and the other children's home kids who might never be adopted. Children need families, not programs, I said. How old are you? He asked. 13, I mumbled, thinking I might have offended him. We're going to be hearing a lot more from you, he said, smiling gently. Gay added, Ashley was in foster care for 9 years, and she wouldn't have been adopted if it wasn't for her child advocate, Mary Miller. It only takes one caring person, right? He winked at me. And we'll stop there. We're on page 229. There's a page break, so we're in the middle of chapter 11, and we'll pick up there next time. All right, hope you're enjoying this one and hope you're doing well. See you next time. Bye.